A female billionaire sat quietly in her wheelchair in a quiet cafe, her eyes red as she tried to hide the sadness. After a disastrous date, the man had turned his back the moment he saw her wheelchair. Suddenly, a little girl walked up, pointed at her, and innocently asked her father why the princess looked so sad. Startled, the black single father hurried over to apologize, but before he could lead his child away, the little girl pulled his hand and begged to sit with the princess. They had no idea that that small moment born from a child's innocence would change the fate of all three in a way no one could foresee. Before we go back, let us know where you're watching from and subscribe, because tomorrow I've got something extra special for you. Charlotte Whitmore sat alone at the corner table of Riverside Cafe, staring at her untouched Earl Grey tea. The steam had long stopped rising from the porcelain cup. Her fingers gripped the armrest of her wheelchair so tightly, her knuckles turned white. 15 minutes ago, Daniel, the man she'd been chatting with for 3 weeks on that dating app, had walked through the cafe door, spotted her wheelchair, and his face had changed. Just like that. His smile vanished. His eyes went from warm to uncomfortable in seconds. "I'm sorry, I just remembered I have an emergency at work," he'd muttered, backing away before she could even say hello. But not before she caught his whispered comment to himself as he turned. "I need a whole woman, not half of one." The words hit her like a slap. Charlotte forced herself to keep breathing, to keep her expression neutral, even though the cafe suddenly felt too small, too bright, too full of couples who could walk hand in hand out the door. 3 years. 3 years since the car accident that shattered her spine and her life. 3 years of building her tech empire from the ground up, proving to everyone that her mind was sharper than ever. And still, men only saw the chair, never the woman sitting in it. She reached for her tea, then stopped. What was the point? She should just leave. Go back to her office, where she belonged, where numbers made sense, and people respected her power, even if they pitied her body. "Daddy, why is that lady sitting all alone? She looks so sad." The voice was small, curious, and completely unfiltered in the way only a child's voice could be. Charlotte's head snapped up. A little girl stood a few feet away, staring at her with the biggest, most honest brown eyes Charlotte had ever seen. She couldn't have been more than 5 years old. Her hair was braided into neat cornrows, decorated with colorful beads that clicked softly when she tilted her head. She wore a pink dress with a unicorn on it and light-up sneakers. "Sophia, baby, that's not polite to say out loud," a deep voice said gently. A man appeared behind the little girl, his hand resting protectively on her shoulder. He wore light blue scrubs that had clearly seen a long night shift. His face showed exhaustion, but his eyes were kind. Really kind. Not the pitying kind or the uncomfortable kind Charlotte usually got, just genuinely warm. "I'm so sorry," he said to Charlotte, but he didn't rush to pull his daughter away like most parents would have. "She's right, though. You do look like you could use some company." Charlotte blinked, caught off guard. She opened her mouth to give her standard polite brush off, but something stopped her. Maybe it was the way he looked at her, not at the wheelchair first, but at her face. Or maybe it was the little girl who was now studying her with such open fascination. Charlotte started, then stopped. Her throat felt tight. When was the last time someone had actually acknowledged her loneliness instead of pretending not to notice? The man glanced at the empty chair across from Charlotte's table. "Would you mind if we sat with you? My daughter's convinced you're a princess on a royal throne, and honestly, I don't have the energy to argue with her after a 12-hour shift." He said it with such matter-of-fact kindness that Charlotte felt something crack in her chest, something that had been frozen solid for 3 years. "A throne," Charlotte heard herself say. Her voice came out softer than she'd intended. Sophia nodded vigorously, beads clicking. It's golden and shiny and has wheels so you can go super fast." "Sophia," the man said, but he was smiling now. "What did we talk about in the car?" "That everyone's body works different, and that's okay," Sophia recited, but she was still looking at Charlotte with pure, uncomplicated interest. "But it is like a throne, Daddy. Look at it." Charlotte felt her lips twitch. When was the last time she'd smiled? Really smiled. You know what? Everything can be a throne if you look at it the right way. "See, Daddy, I told you." Sophia looked triumphant. The man shook his head with a tired but genuine laugh, then extended his hand to Charlotte. "I'm Marcus Jones, and this is my daughter Sophia. We promise we're not usually this forward with strangers, but apparently today is a day for breaking rules." Charlotte found herself shaking his hand. His palm was warm, slightly rough. a working man's hand. Charlotte Whitmore. She watched for recognition of her name. The CEO of Whitmore Technologies was fairly well known in the city, but Marcus just nodded and pulled out the chair across from her. "Nice to meet you, Charlotte. Is it really okay if we sit? Sophia will talk your ear off, fair warning." "I don't mind," Charlotte said, and realized with surprise that she meant it. She watched as Marcus lifted Sophia into the chair, and the little girl immediately launched into a story about a butterfly she'd seen that morning. But Charlotte noticed something. The way Sophia's breathing seemed slightly labored, the faint bluish tint around her lips, the careful way Marcus watched his daughter even while listening to her chatter. This child was sick. Charlotte had been around enough hospitals to recognize the signs. "What can I get you ladies?" Marcus asked, standing up to go order. "And before you say nothing, Charlotte, you haven't touched your tea, and it's probably cold by now." He'd noticed. Of course he'd noticed. "Just a fresh Earl Grey, thank you." "With honey or lemon?" "Lemon, please." As Marcus headed to the counter, Sophia leaned forward conspiratorially. "My daddy is really nice. He works at the hospital and helps people feel better, but he's tired a lot because we had to go to the doctor this morning for my heart." Charlotte's chest tightened. "Your heart?" Sophia nodded, completely casual about it, in the way kids could be about serious things. "It has a hole in it, but Daddy says we're gonna fix it soon. We just have to wait." "Sophia, baby, don't bother the nice lady with all that," Marcus said, returning with a tray. He set down Charlotte's fresh tea, a hot chocolate piled with whipped cream for Sophia and plain black coffee for himself. The kind of strong coffee that screamed, "I'm barely functioning." "She's not bothering me," Charlotte said quickly. Too quickly. Marcus's eyes met hers, and she saw something shift in his expression. Understanding, maybe, or recognition that she wasn't just being polite. They sat in silence for a moment, the comfortable kind that felt strange and unfamiliar to Charlotte. She'd forgotten what it felt like to just exist next to other people without performance or presentation. "Can I ask you something?" Marcus said finally, his voice low enough that Sophia, now distracted by her whipped cream, wouldn't hear. "The guy who left earlier, that was a date, wasn't it?" Charlotte's hand tightened on her teacup. "What gave it away?" "The way you were watching the door. The outfit you look like you put thought into it, and the fact that you're sitting alone in a cafe at 10 in the morning, staring at cold tea like it personally offended you." He paused. "He left because of the chair." It wasn't a question. Charlotte found herself nodding anyway, hating the burning in her eyes. "He said he needed a whole woman. I guess I'm just half now." "Then he's the one with the disability," Marcus said flatly. "A disability of character. That's the worst kind because there's no fixing it." He took a long drink of his coffee. "Life's too short to waste time on people who can't see what's right in front of them." Charlotte stared at him. No one had ever put it that way before. Everyone always tried to comfort her with, "You'll find someone eventually," or "the right person won't care." But Marcus just stated it as fact. The guy was defective, not her. "Thank you," she whispered. "You have no idea how much I needed to hear that." Marcus shrugged, but his eyes were warm. "Just telling the truth. My mama always said you can judge a person's worth by how they treat people who can't offer them anything. That guy failed the test spectacularly." "Your mama sounds wise." "She is. Raised me and my 3 siblings on her own after my dad passed. Taught us that strength isn't about what your body can do, it's about what your heart can carry." He glanced at Sophia, who was now humming to herself and drawing invisible pictures on the table. "I'm trying to teach Sophia the same thing." Charlotte watched the little girl, saw the way her small chest rose and fell with effort, and felt something shift inside her. "How long is the wait list for her surgery?" Marcus's jaw tightened. 6 months, maybe longer. The insurance company keeps finding reasons to delay approval. They say it's not urgent enough, but... He stopped, took a breath. "Every day I watch her get a little more tired. She used to run everywhere. Now she can barely make it up the stairs to our apartment without needing to rest." "Which hospital?" "St. Catherine S. Dr. Rivera is her cardiologist, but we need a specialist. The waiting list for Dr. Akon Cole, he's the best pediatric cardiac surgeon in the state, is over a year long, unless you're a private patient." The words came out bitter. "We're doing fine. I work extra shifts. We're managing, but it's not fast enough." Charlotte's mind was already racing. Dr. Cole. She knew that name. She donated to his research wing 2 years ago. She could make a call. Get Sophia seen within days, maybe hours. "Let me help," she said, leaning forward. "I can get her an appointment with Dr. Cole. I can cover the costs. No. Marcus's voice was firm and his face had gone hard. He stood up abruptly, reaching for Sophia. Thank you for the offer, Miss Whitmore, but we're not a charity case. I take care of my daughter. I've been doing it since the day she was born, and I'll keep doing it. That's not what I meant, Charlotte started, but Marcus was already lifting Sophia out of her chair. Come on, baby girl, we need to get going. But Daddy, I don't want to leave. I like Miss Charlotte. Sophia's lower lip trembled, and Charlotte felt her heart crack right down the middle. I know, sweetheart, but we have errands to run. Marcus's voice was gentle with his daughter, but when he glanced at Charlotte, his eyes were guarded. Thank you for your time, Miss Whitmore. I hope the rest of your day is better than it started. He was leaving. Taking this bright, wonderful child with him and Charlotte would never see either of them again. Something inside her, the part that had been frozen since the accident, since Daniel walked away, since her fiancé left her in that hospital bed 3 years ago, suddenly roared to life. Wait, Charlotte said, and she heard the desperation in her own voice. Please, just wait. Marcus stopped, but didn't turn around. Sophia twisted in his arms to look back at Charlotte, her little face confused. This isn't about charity, Charlotte said quickly, her voice steadier now. This is about one human being helping another. Please just sit back down for 5 more minutes. Let me explain. Marcus hesitated. She could see the war happening in his expression, pride versus his daughter's needs, independence versus desperation. Finally, slowly, he came back to the table and set Sophia down in her chair again. 5 minutes, he said, crossing his arms over his chest. The defensive posture was clear. Charlotte took a breath. 3 years ago, I was engaged, planning a wedding, running my company, living a normal life. She paused, her fingers tracing the rim of her teacup. Then a drunk driver ran a red light. My fiancé was driving. He walked away with a few scratches. I didn't walk away at all. Sophia's eyes went wide, but Marcus's expression softened slightly. I woke up in the hospital, and they told me I'd never walk again. My fiancé stayed for exactly 2 days before he told me he couldn't handle it. He left while I was still in ICU. Charlotte's voice didn't shake, but Marcus could hear the pain underneath every word. My father, the man who taught me everything about business, tried to have me removed as CEO. He told the board I was no longer physically capable of running a company, that I'd become a liability. Jesus, Marcus breathed. I fought him, took him to court, won. But it cost me what was left of my family. My mother sided with him. My brother stopped calling. Charlotte looked directly at Marcus now. So when I say I understand what it's like to fight alone, when everyone doubts you can protect what matters most, I mean it. I know exactly what that feels like. Marcus's arms slowly uncrossed. He sat back down, his eyes searching her face. I'm not offering you charity, Charlotte continued. I'm offering you partnership. You have the strength and health to care for Sophia day and night. I have the financial resources to make sure she gets the medical care she needs. Let us balance each other out. Let me do this one thing that might actually matter instead of just signing checks for tax write-offs. Why? Marcus asked bluntly. You don't know us. We're strangers you met 15 minutes ago. Because your daughter looked at me and saw a princess instead of a broken woman, Charlotte said, and her voice finally cracked. Because you sat down with me when a man who was supposed to care about me walked away without a second glance. Because I haven't felt this human in 3 years, and I don't want to go back to being lonely. She wiped quickly at her eyes. And because Sophia deserves every chance to grow up healthy, and if I can make that happen, then my money is finally worth something. Sophia reached out and grabbed Charlotte's pinky finger with her small hand. Don't be sad, Miss Charlotte. You're the nicest princess I ever met. Charlotte laughed, a broken sound that was half sob. She squeezed the little girl's hand gently. Marcus ran his hand over his face, and when he looked up, his eyes were suspiciously bright. My ex-wife, Sophia's mother. She left when Sophia was 6 months old. The doctors had just confirmed the heart defect. She said she couldn't handle it. The stress, the medical bills, the uncertainty. She just left. His voice was rough. I swore that day that I would never let anyone hurt my daughter again, that I would never let anyone make her feel like she was a burden or too much trouble. I would never, Charlotte started. I know, Marcus interrupted. I can see that. I don't know why, but I can see it in your eyes. You genuinely care, and you just met her. He took a shaky breath. But if I accept your help, I need you to understand something. This isn't temporary. You can't come into our lives, help us, and then disappear when it gets hard or inconvenient. Sophia's already attached to you. I can see it, and if you leave, it will hurt her." "I understand what it feels like to be abandoned," Charlotte said softly. "I would never do that to her. Or to you." Marcus stared at her for a long moment, then slowly nodded. Okay, we'll do this. But on one condition, I pay you back. I don't care if it takes me 20 years, I'll pay back every cent. And if you do anything to hurt Sophia, if you make her feel less than perfect the way she is, I will make sure you regret it." "Deal," Charlotte said immediately. She pulled out her phone. "I'm calling Dr. Cole's office right now. We'll have Sophia evaluated this week." "This week," Marcus's voice cracked, "but the waiting list is for people who don't have my phone number," Charlotte said, already dialing. She held up a finger as someone answered. "Yes, this is Charlotte Whitmore. I need to speak with Dr. Cole directly, please. Tell him it's urgent and regarding the cardiac wing donation." "Yes, I'll hold." Marcus watched her in stunned silence as she seamlessly transitioned into CEO mode. Her voice became more authoritative, more commanding. Within 3 minutes, she had secured an appointment for Sophia in 2 days. "Thursday at 10 a.m., Charlotte said, hanging up. "Dr. Cole will personally evaluate her." "I work Thursday," Marcus said automatically, then shook his head. "No, I'll call in. I'll switch shifts. This is more important." "What time do you work?" 3 to 11, evening shift at St. Catherine S. "I'll have my driver pick you and Sophia up at 9:30. We'll go together." Charlotte said it as if it was already decided. "You don't have to." "I want to," Charlotte interrupted. "Please, let me be part of this." Sophia tugged on her father's sleeve. "Can Miss Charlotte come, Daddy, please? She makes me not scared." Marcus looked at his daughter, then at Charlotte, and something in his expression finally surrendered completely. "Okay, yes, thank you, Charlotte. I don't know how to—" He stopped, emotion thick in his throat. "Thank you." Charlotte felt warmth spread through her chest, a feeling she'd almost forgotten existed. "Thank me by letting me take you both to lunch. I haven't had good company for a meal in longer than I care to admit." "Lunch?" Marcus smiled, a real one this time. "You're buying us lunch too." "I'm buying us friendship," Charlotte corrected. "The lunch is just a bonus." 2 days later, Charlotte found herself more nervous than she'd been before any board meeting. She'd spent an hour that morning choosing her outfit, a soft lavender blouse instead of her usual stark black suits, and had actually asked her assistant for makeup advice. "You're fussing," Maria had said with barely concealed amusement. Maria had been Charlotte's assistant for 5 years and had never seen her boss care this much about appearance outside of major presentations. "I'm not fussing," Charlotte had lied. "I just want to look approachable." "For a 5-year-old's doctor appointment?" Charlotte had glared at her, and Maria had wisely retreated with a knowing smile. Now sitting in the back of her Mercedes as Thomas, her driver, pulled up to the modest apartment building in the working-class neighborhood, Charlotte felt her heart hammering. The building was old but well-maintained. Flower boxes sat in some windows. A community garden took up part of the courtyard. This was Marcus's world, so different from her penthouse overlooking the city. Marcus appeared in the doorway carrying Sophia, who was dressed in a yellow sundress covered in bumblebees. When Sophia spotted the car, her face lit up like Christmas morning. "Miss Charlotte, you came, Daddy. She really came." "I told you she would, baby," Marcus said, but Charlotte could hear the relief in his voice. He'd been worried she might change her mind. Thomas opened the door, and Charlotte smiled as Sophia practically launched herself into the car. "Easy, Sophia," Marcus said, climbing in after her. He was wearing khaki pants and a button-down shirt, clearly his best clothes. His hair was freshly cut. He'd made an effort, too. "Good morning," Charlotte said warmly. "Ready to meet Dr. Cole?" "I'm ready," Sophia announced. "Daddy said he's the best heart doctor in the whole world." "Pretty close to it," Charlotte agreed. She handed Sophia a small gift bag. "I brought you something for being so brave." Sophia's eyes widened. She looked to her father for permission, and when Marcus nodded, she carefully opened the bag. Inside was a small stuffed elephant wearing a stethoscope. "He's a doctor elephant," Sophia squealed. "Look, Daddy." "That's very thoughtful," Marcus said, his eyes meeting Charlotte's. "Thank you." "I figured she could use a brave companion," Charlotte said. "Elephants never forget, and they're very protective of their families." Something passed between them in that moment, an understanding that went deeper than words. The drive to Dr. Cole's private practice took 30 minutes. Sophia chattered the entire way, telling Charlotte about her preschool, her best friend Mia, and the goldfish they had in her classroom named Bubbles. Marcus sat quietly, his knee bouncing with nervous energy. Charlotte reached over and placed her hand on his arm. "She's in good hands." Marcus looked down at her hand, then up at her face. "I know. What if it's worse than we thought? What if? Then we deal with it," Charlotte said firmly. "Together." The word together seemed to anchor him. He took a deep breath and nodded. Dr. Cole's office was nothing like a typical hospital. The walls were painted with cheerful murals of underwater scenes. The waiting room had toys and books scattered around. Soft music played from hidden speakers. "Miss Whitmore," Dr. Cole greeted them personally, shaking Charlotte's hand before crouching down to Sophia's level. He was a tall black man in his 50s, with kind eyes and gentle hands. "And you must be Sophia. I love your dress. Bumblebees are some of my favorite insects." "Really?" Sophia asked, suddenly shy. "Really. They're very hard workers, just like your heart." "Doctor." Cole stood and shook Marcus's hand. "Mr. Jones, I've reviewed Sophia's medical records. Why don't we get her examined, and then we'll talk about what we're working with." The next hour was thorough. Dr. Cole examined Sophia with patience and care, explaining everything he was doing in terms a 5-year-old could understand. Charlotte and Marcus sat together on the couch in the exam room, their hands somehow finding each other's halfway through. Finally, Dr. Cole sat down across from them, his expression serious. "The ventricular septal defect is larger than the previous scans indicated," he said gently. "It's grown in the past 6 months. That's why Sophia's been getting more tired, more short of breath." Marcus's hand tightened painfully around Charlotte's. "How bad?" "It needs surgical repair soon. Within the next month, ideally. The hole is allowing too much blood flow to the lungs, and her heart is working overtime to compensate. If we wait much longer, we risk permanent damage to her pulmonary system." "A month," Marcus whispered. The insurance company had told him 6 months to a year. They'd said it wasn't urgent. Charlotte felt rage burn through her veins. "What do we need to do?" Dr. Cole looked at her appreciatively. "The surgery itself is delicate, but I've performed it hundreds of times. The success rate is high, about 85% for defects this size. Sophia is otherwise healthy, which works in her favor. She'll need to stay in the hospital for about a week afterward, then careful monitoring for several months." 15% failure rate, Marcus said numbly. "Those are excellent odds," Dr. Cole said kindly. "Most of the complications in that 15% are minor and treatable. Fatal outcomes are less than 2% in my hands." 2%. Still a chance his daughter could die on that operating table. "When can we schedule it?" Charlotte asked, her voice steady, even though she could feel Marcus trembling beside her. "I have an opening 3 weeks from today. I'd like to keep that slot for Sophia if you're agreeable." Dr. Cole looked at Marcus. "I know this is scary, Mr. Jones, but waiting is riskier than operating." Marcus couldn't speak. He just nodded. "Daddy." Sophia's small voice came from the exam table where a nurse had been entertaining her with stickers. "Are you crying?" "Happy tears, baby girl." Marcus managed, his voice wrecked. "Dr. Cole is going to fix your heart, so I can run again." "So you can run again," Dr. Cole confirmed with a warm smile. After they scheduled the surgery and Dr. Cole left them with a stack of pre-op information, Marcus stood abruptly and walked to the window, his back to Charlotte and Sophia. His shoulders were shaking. Charlotte carefully wheeled herself over to him. "Marcus, I can't breathe," he whispered. 2%. That's still a chance. What if— "Don't," Charlotte said firmly. She grabbed his hand and pulled him around to face her. "Don't go there. Sophia needs you strong right now." "I don't know if I can be strong enough for this." "You're not alone anymore," Charlotte said, and she was surprised by how fiercely she meant it. "You have me. I promise I'm not going anywhere." Marcus looked at her for a long moment, then suddenly dropped to his knees beside her wheelchair and buried his face against her shoulder. His body shook with silent sobs that he'd been holding back for months, maybe years. Charlotte wrapped her arms around him and held on tight, letting him fall apart in a way he probably never allowed himself to when Sophia could see. She ran her fingers through his hair and whispered, "It's okay. Let it out. I've got you." Behind them, Sophia was happily placing stickers all over her new elephant, oblivious to her father's breakdown and the woman holding him together. The weeks before Sophia's surgery passed in a strange blur of terror and unexpected joy. Charlotte had expected to just provide financial support and maybe show up for the surgery itself. What she didn't expect was to become woven into the fabric of their daily lives. It started small. She'd send Thomas to pick them up for appointments so Marcus didn't have to take the bus. Then she started joining them for lunch after those appointments. Then somehow she was getting daily text updates from Marcus about Sophia's energy levels, what she ate, how she was feeling. She barely touched her dinner. Should I be worried? Marcus texted one evening. Did she have a big snack after school? Charlotte responded immediately, even though she was in the middle of a board meeting. Yeah, Mama Rose brought cookies. That's probably it. Try making her favorite breakfast tomorrow and see if her appetite comes back. When did you become such a parenting expert? Charlotte smiled at her phone. I'm learning from the best. A week before the surgery, Marcus invited her to the zoo. Sophia wants you to come, he'd said over the phone, and Charlotte could hear the little girl shouting, "Tell her the penguins are here, the penguins," in the background. I'd love to, Charlotte had said without hesitation. She showed up in casual clothes jeans and a soft sweater and was surprised when Marcus's eyes lingered on her for a moment. What? She asked, suddenly self-conscious. Nothing. You look different when you're not in CEO mode. Good different. Charlotte felt heat rise to her cheeks. Well, penguins require casual attire. It's a rule. The zoo had been Charlotte's idea to get fully accessible VIP passes. She'd called ahead and arranged for them to have unrestricted access to all the exhibits, including some behind-the-scenes areas where Sophia could get closer to the animals without crowds pushing and shoving. You didn't have to do all this, Marcus said as a zookeeper gave Sophia a special tour of the penguin feeding area. I wanted to, Charlotte said, watching Sophia's face light up as a penguin waddled right up to her. Look at her, Marcus. She's so happy. She talks about you constantly, Marcus said softly. Miss Charlotte this, Miss Charlotte that. She asked me last night if you could be her fairy godmother. Charlotte laughed, but there were tears in her eyes. I'd be honored. Charlotte, I need to ask you something. Marcus turned to face her, his expression serious. Are you doing all this because you feel guilty or sorry for us? Because if that's what this is, it's not. Charlotte interrupted. Marcus, when I'm with you and Sophia, I feel like Charlotte. Just Charlotte. Not the CEO who has to prove she's still competent despite the chair. Not the woman who gets pitied or stared at everywhere she goes. Just me. She paused. You make me feel normal. And Sophia makes me feel valued. That's worth more than any board meeting or business deal. Marcus studied her face for a long moment. My mama wants to meet you. She does? Yeah. She says any woman who can make me smile again after 3 years of just survival is worth meeting. He rubbed the back of his neck. Fair warning, Mama Rose is intense. She'll interrogate you. I can handle intense, Charlotte said with a smile. I've been dealing with hostile board members for years. This is different. She's going to ask about your intentions. My intentions? Marcus looked away, but not before Charlotte saw the vulnerability in his eyes. With us. With me and Sophia. She wants to make sure you're not going to break our hearts. Charlotte's breath caught. The way he said our hearts made something flutter in her chest. Tell your mama I'll answer any question she has, because my intention is to be here, for both of you, for as long as you'll let me. When Marcus looked back at her, his eyes were soft. I'm starting to think that might be a very long time. Before Charlotte could respond, Sophia came running back, her face flushed with excitement. Miss Charlotte, did you see the penguin touch my hand? He was so soft and cold. Charlotte opened her arms and Sophia climbed right into her lap on the wheelchair, settling in like she belonged there. Marcus watched them together, and the expression on his face made Charlotte's heart skip. Later that evening, after Thomas dropped them off at their apartment, Marcus lingered by the car while Sophia ran ahead to tell Mama Rose about the penguins. Thank you, he said quietly, for today, for everything. I don't know how I'll ever repay you. You already have, Charlotte said. You gave me something I thought I'd lost forever. What's that? Hope, she whispered. Marcus reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his touch gentle. I think you might be giving me the same thing. They stayed like that for a moment, something unspoken hanging in the air between them. Then Sophia's voice called out, Daddy, come on. Grandma made pie. Marcus stepped back, his hand falling away. I should go. Marcus, Charlotte called as he turned. This thing between us, whatever it is, I'm not imagining it, am I? He looked back at her and his smile was answer enough. No, Charlotte, you're not imagining it. The evening before Sophia's surgery was the longest of Marcus's life. He'd taken 3 days off work, which he never did. He'd cleaned their apartment until everything gleamed. He'd packed and repacked Sophia's hospital bag 4 times. And still, the clock moved too slowly toward morning. At 2 a.m., when he should have been sleeping, his phone buzzed with a text from Charlotte. "Are you awake?" Marcus grabbed his phone like a lifeline. "Can't sleep." "Me neither." "Can I call?" His phone rang seconds later. Marcus stepped out onto their tiny balcony so he wouldn't wake Sophia. "Hey," he said, his voice rough. "Hey," Charlotte said softly. "How are you holding up?" "I'm terrified," Marcus admitted. "I keep thinking about that 2%. What if she's in that 2%, Charlotte? What if I lose her?" "You won't." "You can't promise that." "No," Charlotte agreed. "But I can promise that whatever happens, you won't face it alone. I'll be there tomorrow, and the day after, and every day after that if you need me." Marcus felt his throat tighten. "Why are you doing this, really? We're nobody to you." "You're not nobody," Charlotte said, and there was something fierce in her voice. "You're everything. You and Sophia have given me a reason to get up in the morning that has nothing to do with profit margins or stock prices. You've made me remember what it feels like to care about something bigger than myself." "Charlotte, I'm falling for you," she interrupted, her voice shaking slightly. "I know the timing is terrible and you have enough to worry about, but I can't keep pretending this is just friendship. I think about you constantly. I worry about you. I want to be part of your life, not just an outsider helping out. And I needed you to know that before tomorrow, just in case." "Don't," Marcus said sharply. "Don't say just in case. Sophia is going to be fine." "I know. I just needed you to know how I feel." Marcus pressed his forehead against the cool railing of the balcony. "I'm falling for you too. Have been for weeks now. But I've been fighting it because it doesn't make sense. You're a billionaire CEO, and I'm a night shift nurse who lives paycheck to paycheck. We're from completely different worlds." "So what?" Charlotte challenged. "My world was cold and lonely before you and Sophia crashed into it. Your world is warm and full of love. I know which one I prefer." "People will talk. They'll say I'm using you, gold digging, taking advantage." "Let them talk. I don't care what people think. I never have." Charlotte paused. "Do you care?" "I care about protecting you and Sophia. I care about doing right by both of you. Then protect us by letting us be there for you tomorrow," Charlotte said softly. "Let me hold your hand while we wait. Let me be the one you fall apart with if you need to. That's all I'm asking for right now." Marcus closed his eyes, and for the first time in years, he let himself want something that wasn't just survival. "Okay, yes, I want you there. I need you there. Then I'll be there. I promise." There was a smile in her voice now. "Try to get some sleep, Marcus. Sophia needs you strong tomorrow." "She needs us both," Marcus corrected. "Yeah," Charlotte said softly. "She does." After they hung up, Marcus went back inside and checked on Sophia one more time. She was sleeping peacefully, her new elephant clutched tight in her arms. He kissed her forehead and whispered, "You're going to be okay, baby girl. And when you wake up, you'll have 2 people who love you waiting for you, not just one." At 6 a.m., Charlotte's driver pulled up outside their building. Marcus was already waiting with Sophia, who was groggy, but excited to see Miss Charlotte. Charlotte took one look at Marcus's exhausted, terrified face and held out her hand. He took it without hesitation, and they held on to each other all the way to the hospital. In the pre-op waiting area, Mama Rose met them. She was a formidable woman in her 60s, with graying hair pulled back in a neat bun and eyes that missed nothing. She looked at Charlotte for a long moment, taking in everything from the expensive wheelchair to the way Charlotte's hand was still clasped tightly in Marcus's. Then Mama Rose smiled. "So you're the woman my boy can't stop talking about." Charlotte flushed. "Guilty." "Thank you," Mama Rose said simply, "for loving my grandbaby and for taking care of my son." "It's easy to love them," Charlotte said honestly. When the nurses came to take Sophia back, the little girl started to cry. "I want Miss Charlotte to come too." The head nurse shook her head apologetically. "Only parents are allowed past this point, sweetheart." Charlotte started to pull back, but Marcus held firm to her hand. "She's family," he said clearly. "She comes with us." The nurse looked uncertain, but something in Marcus's face made her nod. "All right, but you'll have to wait in the family holding area." They wheeled Sophia down the long hallway. both Charlotte and Marcus walking on either side of the gurney, each holding one of Sophia's hands. In the pre-op bay, while the anesthesiologist explained what would happen, Sophia looked between the two adults. "Are you gonna get married?" she asked, suddenly completely serious. Marcus choked on air. Charlotte turned bright red. "Sophia, baby, that's not," Marcus started. "Because if you get married, then Miss Charlotte can be my mama," Sophia continued with 5-year-old logic. "And I would like that very much." The anesthesiologist was clearly trying not to smile. Charlotte recovered first. "Well, if your daddy ever asks me, I promise you'll be the first to know," she said, squeezing Sophia's hand. "Will you ask her, Daddy?" Sophia pressed. Marcus looked at Charlotte, and despite everything, the fear, the stress, the impossibility of their situation, he smiled. "Maybe someday, baby girl, if Miss Charlotte would say yes." "I would," Charlotte said softly, her eyes locked on his. The moment stretched between them, heavy with promise and possibility. Then the anesthesiologist cleared her throat. "Okay, Sophia, time for you to take a little nap. When you wake up, your heart is going to be all fixed. And Miss Charlotte will be there." "I'll be the first person you see," Charlotte promised. "I'll be right there when you open your eyes." "Okay," Sophia said, her eyelids already drooping as the medicine took effect. "I love you, Miss Charlotte." Charlotte's vision blurred with tears. "I love you too, sweetheart. So much." As they wheeled Sophia toward the operating room, Marcus and Charlotte stood frozen in the hallway, watching until the doors swung shut behind her. Then Marcus turned to Charlotte and pulled her tight against him, his body shaking. Charlotte wrapped her arms around his waist and held on, letting him bury his face in her hair and just breathe. 4 hours, he whispered. "The surgery takes 4 hours." "Then we wait 4 hours," Charlotte said firmly. "Together." In the surgical waiting room, Charlotte made one phone call to her office. "Cancel everything for today. And possibly tomorrow. I don't care what it is. Handle it." Marcus stared at her. "You're canceling work for us." "There's a board meeting this afternoon, the quarterly earnings report. It's one of the most important meetings of the year." "Charlotte, you can't." "I can and I am," Charlotte interrupted. "There will always be another meeting, another report, another quarter. But there's only one Sophia. And only one today. The company can survive without me for 48 hours. Sophia can't." Mama Rose patted Charlotte's shoulder approvingly. "You'll do just fine for my boy." The waiting was torture. Marcus couldn't sit still. He paced for the first hour, wore a path in the carpet. Charlotte worked through every mindless game on her phone to keep from checking the clock every 30 seconds. Mama Rose knitted quietly, her needles clicking in a soothing rhythm. At hour 2, Marcus collapsed into the chair next to Charlotte. "I can't do this. It's too hard." Charlotte set down her phone and took his hand, threading their fingers together. "Yes, you can. You're the strongest person I know." "I'm not strong. I'm barely holding it together." "Strength isn't never being afraid," Charlotte said. "It's being terrified and showing up anyway. You've been doing that for Sophia her entire life. Don't stop now." Marcus looked at their joined hands. "When did you become so wise?" "When I met a man who taught me that love is worth fighting for, even when it's hard." At hour 3, Dr. Cole sent out an update through a nurse. Surgery was progressing well. Everything looked good so far. Marcus let out a breath he'd been holding for what felt like forever. "She's okay. She's still okay. She's going to stay okay," Charlotte said firmly. At hour 4 in 15 minutes, Dr. Cole finally emerged from the OR. He was still in his surgical scrubs, but he was smiling. Marcus jumped to his feet so fast he nearly knocked over his chair. "Is she?" "She's perfect," Dr. Cole said, and Marcus's knees actually buckled. Charlotte wheeled herself forward quickly and grabbed his arm, steadying him. "The repair went flawlessly. Her heart responded beautifully. She's in recovery now, and she's already starting to wake up." "Can we see her?" Marcus's voice cracked. "Give them about 20 minutes to get her settled in PICU, then you can go back. 2 visitors at a time." Dr. Cole looked at Charlotte. "She's been asking for you, Miss Whitmore. Apparently you made a promise." Charlotte's hand flew to her mouth. "She's been asking for me." First word out of her mouth when she started coming around was, "Charlotte," Dr. Cole said with a warm smile. "That's a special little girl you've got there." After Dr. Cole left, Marcus turned to Charlotte. Before she could say anything, he dropped to his knees beside her wheelchair and kissed her. It was desperate and grateful and full of promise all at once. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Mama Rose cleared her throat loudly. "Well, it's about time," she said with satisfaction. Marcus laughed a sound of pure relief and joy. Charlotte was crying openly now, not even trying to hide it. "I love you," Marcus said, still on his knees, his forehead pressed against hers. "I know it's fast and crazy, and we have so much to figure out, but I love you, Charlotte Whitmore." "I love you too," Charlotte whispered back. "Both of you. So much." When the nurse came to get them 20 minutes later, they went back together hand in hand. Sophia was small and pale in the big hospital bed wires and tubes everywhere, but her eyes were open and alert. "Miss Charlotte," she said weakly, "you kept your promise." Charlotte wheeled right up to the bedside and took Sophia's hand. "Always, sweetheart. I'll always keep my promises to you. Are you my mama now?" Charlotte looked at Marcus, who nodded with tears streaming down his face. "Yeah, baby," Charlotte said, her voice breaking. "If you want me to be, I'm your mama now." "Good," Sophia said with a sleepy smile. "I love you, Mama." Charlotte bent down and kissed Sophia's forehead, tasting her own tears on her lips. "I love you too, my brave girl. So much." The week Sophia spent in the hospital changed everything. Marcus had been prepared to sleep in uncomfortable chairs and eat vending machine food. What he wasn't prepared for was Charlotte essentially moving into the hospital with them. She had a private room set up for Marcus to sleep in, actually sleep in a real bed. She had meals delivered 3 times a day from restaurants around the city. She rearranged her entire schedule so that someone was with Sophia every moment she was awake. "You're spoiling us," Marcus said on day 3, watching as Charlotte supervised the delivery of yet another care package, this one full of Sophia's favorite books and a new set of toys. "I'm taking care of my family," Charlotte corrected. She said it so naturally, so easily, like they'd been a family for years instead of weeks. The hospital staff quickly learned that Charlotte Whitmore was not someone who accepted, "That's just how things are done." When the PICU tried to enforce strict visiting hours, Charlotte had a polite but firm conversation with the hospital administrator. Suddenly, the rules were flexible for Sophia's room. "How did you do that?" Marcus asked, amazed. Charlotte smiled mysteriously. "Let's just say the hospital's new pediatric wing is being funded by someone who has very specific opinions about family access to patients." "Charlotte, you didn't?" "I did. And I don't want to hear any arguments about it. Children need their parents. Parents need their children. It's not complicated." By day 5, Sophia was sitting up and begging to walk around. The nurses kept telling her to rest, but she was getting restless. "I want to go home," she whined to Marcus. "I miss my room and my toys and Mr. Whiskers." "Who's Mr. Whiskers?" Charlotte asked. "Her goldfish," Marcus explained. "Mama Rose is watching him." "I want to show you my room, Mama Charlotte," Sophia said, and both adults froze at the new name. "Can you come to our home when I get out?" Marcus looked uncomfortable. "Baby, our apartment is really small. Miss Charlotte is used to much nicer." "I would love to see your home," Charlotte interrupted. "I bet it's wonderful." On day 7, Dr. Cole cleared Sophia for discharge with strict instructions for rest and follow-up appointments. As Marcus packed up their things, he turned to Charlotte. "About you seeing our place," he started hesitantly. "I just want you to understand that it's not much. It's a 1-bedroom in a not great neighborhood. Sophia sleeps in the bedroom and I sleep on the couch. It's cramped and old and—" "Marcus," Charlotte said gently, "do you think I care about any of that?" "I care. I care that you're going to see how I live and realize that we're from completely different worlds." "We are from different worlds," Charlotte agreed, "but we're building a new world together, one that's better than either of our old ones." When they pulled up to Marcus's building, Charlotte could see him tense up, watching for her reaction. The building was indeed old, probably built in the 70s. The exterior paint was peeling in places, but the small garden out front was well tended, and she could see window boxes with flowers in several units. Thomas helped her with her wheelchair, and Marcus carried Sophia carefully up the stairs. Their apartment was on the 3rd floor. No elevator. "I'll wait down here," Charlotte said, but Marcus shook his head. "You're family now. You're coming up." Before she could argue, he handed Sophia to Mama Rose, who had come down to meet them. Then he bent down and literally picked Charlotte up out of her wheelchair, carrying her like she weighed nothing. "Marcus," Charlotte gasped instinctively, wrapping her arms around his neck. "You don't have to." "Yes, I do," he said firmly. "You're coming home with us." Thomas followed with the wheelchair, And somehow Marcus carried Charlotte up 3 flights of stairs without even breathing hard. The apartment was tiny, exactly as Marcus had described. The entire space couldn't have been more than 600 square feet, but it was spotlessly clean and clearly full of love. Photos covered every surface: Sophia's school picture shots of Marcus and his siblings, Mama Rose's wedding photo. Charlotte looked around, seeing the worn but comfortable couch where Marcus slept, the small kitchen where he somehow made magic with limited space, the single bedroom where Sophia's bed sat, surrounded by stuffed animals and books. "It's perfect," she said softly. "It's barely big enough for 2 people, let alone—" Marcus stopped himself. "Let alone 3, Charlotte finished. "Is that what you were going to say?" Marcus set her down gently on the couch and went to get her wheelchair. When he came back, he sat down beside her, close enough that their knees touched. "I want you here," he said quietly, "but I don't know how to make it work. This place is too small, and even if we found something bigger, I can't afford rent on a place that's wheelchair accessible and big enough for all of us. So move in with me," Charlotte said. Marcus's head snapped up. "What? Move in with me? My penthouse is completely accessible. It has 4 bedrooms, way too much space for 1 person. There's a gym, a library, a playroom that's currently being used for storage." She took his hand. "I've been thinking about this all week, Marcus. I don't want to date you long distance. I don't want to be someone who visits. I want to be there when Sophia wakes up with nightmares. I want to have breakfast with you in the morning. I want us to be a real family, not just people who see each other a few times a week." "Charlotte, that's insane. We've known each other for less than 2 months. So, my parents knew each other for 5 years before they got married, and that ended in divorce and hatred. Sometimes you just know." She squeezed his hand. "I know. Don't you?" Marcus looked at her for a long moment, then toward the bedroom where Sophia was playing with Mama Rose. "What about Sophia? This is the only home she's ever known. Then we make my place feel like home for her. We bring Mr. Whiskers. We set up her room exactly how she wants it. We make sure she knows she's not losing anything, just gaining more space to grow." Charlotte paused. "And Marcus, I'm not saying you have to stop working. I know you're proud of your independence. But maybe you could cut down to part-time. Spend more time with Sophia while she recovers. Really be there for her without worrying about making ends meet." "You're asking me to be a kept man," Marcus said, but there was no heat in it. Just exhaustion and longing. "I'm asking you to be my partner, to let me share what I have with the people I love. That's not being kept. That's being family." "People will talk. They'll say awful things. Let them. I stopped caring what people think about me 3 years ago when I had to rebuild my entire life from a hospital bed." Charlotte's voice was fierce now. "I love you, Marcus Jones. I love Sophia like she's my own daughter, and I want to build a life with both of you. If that makes me crazy, or if that makes you uncomfortable, tell me now. But don't push me away because you're worried about what strangers will think." Marcus was quiet for so long, Charlotte started to worry she'd pushed too hard. Then he called out, "Sophia, can you come here for a minute, baby?" Sophia came bouncing out of the bedroom, still moving carefully, but already looking so much better than she had a week ago. "Yes, Daddy." "How would you feel about living with Miss Charlotte in her big house with lots of rooms?" Sophia's eyes went wide. "Really? Could we really?" "If that's what you want," Marcus said. Sophia launched herself at Charlotte, wrapping her arms around her neck. "Yes. Yes. Can I have my own room? A big one with space for all my toys." Charlotte laughed, hugging the little girl tight. "You can have the biggest room in the whole house if you want. We'll decorate it however you like." "What about Mr. Whiskers?" "Mr. Whiskers comes too. Maybe we can even get him a bigger tank." Sophia squealed with delight and ran back to the bedroom to tell Mama Rose. Marcus watched her go, then turned back to Charlotte. "You're sure about this, really sure? Because once we do this, there's no going back. Sophia will be devastated if it doesn't work out." "It will work out," Charlotte said firmly. "Marcus, I didn't survive a car crash and rebuild my entire life just to play it safe now. I want this. I want you. I want the messy, complicated, beautiful reality of building a family together. So yes, I'm sure. The question is, are you?" Marcus cupped her face in his hands and kissed her soft and deep and full of promise. When he pulled back, he was smiling. "Yeah, I'm sure. Let's go home, Charlotte. Let's take our daughter home." Moving day was controlled chaos. Charlotte had hired a moving company to pack and transport Marcus and Sophia's belongings, which turned out to be both more and less than expected. More because every item held memories Marcus wasn't ready to part with. Less because everything they owned fit into one small truck. "This is everything?" Charlotte asked, not judgmentally, just surprised. "We travel light," Marcus said with a shrug, but she could see the embarrassment in his eyes. "Good," Charlotte said firmly. "That means more room for new memories." Sophia was beside herself with excitement. Charlotte had sent her interior decorator over the day before with paint samples and fabric swatches, and Sophia had designed her dream room. Purple walls, white furniture, and a canopy bed that looked like a princess castle. "It's being assembled right now," Charlotte told her as they rode the elevator up to the penthouse. "Your dad and I are going to set up the rest together." When the elevator doors opened directly into Charlotte's apartment, Marcus froze. The space was massive, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, modern furniture in neutrals, and whites art on the walls that probably cost more than his yearly salary. "Welcome home," Charlotte said softly, watching his face. "This is... wow," Marcus managed. "Charlotte, this is too much." "It's too empty," Charlotte corrected. "It's been too quiet for too long. You and Sophia are going to fill it up with noise and mess and life, and I can't wait." Sophia had no such reservations. She took off running through the apartment, squealing at every discovery. "Daddy, there's a whole room just for books and a TV room. And look, the kitchen is huge." Marcus walked slowly through the space, touching things carefully, like he was afraid to break them. Charlotte wheeled alongside him, letting him process. "The master bedroom is through there," she said, pointing. I have a guest room set up for you if you want privacy. But I was hoping—" She trailed off, suddenly nervous. "You want me in your room?" Marcus asked quietly. "Yes, if you're comfortable with that. I know we're doing this all backwards and fast, but I don't want to pretend we're just roommates. I want to wake up next to you." Marcus turned to her, his eyes intense. "I want that too. I've wanted that since the night before Sophia's surgery, when you stayed on the phone with me until dawn." They found Sophia in her new room, jumping on the bed and making the canopy sway. "Mama Charlotte, this is the best room ever." The casual use of Mama Charlotte still made Charlotte's chest tight every time. She wheeled into the room and laughed at Sophia's enthusiasm. "I'm glad you like it, sweetheart, but be careful. Jumping Dr. Cole said to take it easy for another few weeks." "Okay," Sophia said, immediately plopping down into a careful sitting position. "Will you help me put my toys away?" For the next few hours, the three of them worked together, unpacking and arranging. Marcus kept looking around like he expected to wake up and find it was all a dream. Charlotte kept stealing glances at him, and Sophia, her heart so full it hurt. That evening, after Sophia was asleep in her princess bed with Mr. Whisker's new large tank bubbling softly beside her, Charlotte and Marcus stood together in the kitchen. "I can cook," Marcus said suddenly. "I know you probably have a chef or something, but I like cooking. It helps me think." "I fired my chef 2 years ago," Charlotte admitted. "I got tired of eating alone at a formal dining table. I've been living on takeout and whatever I can heat in the microwave." "That's criminal," Marcus said with mock horror. "No wonder you're so skinny. Starting tomorrow, I'm feeding you properly." "Is that a promise?" "That's a guarantee." He moved closer, his hands finding her waist. "Charlotte, I need you to understand something. I might not be able to pay rent or contribute financially the way you do, but I'm going to take care of you and Sophia in all the ways I can. Cooking, cleaning, making sure we're all healthy and happy. That's my contribution, okay?" "More than okay," Charlotte whispered. "Marcus, I don't need you to pay for things. I need you to be here, to be present, to love us. That's the only contribution that matters." They kissed in the kitchen, surrounded by moving boxes and the soft sound of the city outside the windows. It felt like beginning and coming home all at once. Later, lying in bed together for the first time, Marcus held Charlotte close and whispered, "Thank you for taking a chance on us, for seeing past the chair and the scrubs and just seeing who we are." Charlotte turned to face him, her hand on his chest. "Thank you for seeing past the money and the power, for seeing that I was lonely and broken and needed someone to help me remember how to be human." "You're not broken," Marcus said fiercely. "You're the strongest person I've ever met." "We can both be strong," Charlotte said, "and help hold each other up when we're not." They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other, while Sophia slept peacefully down the hall and the city lights twinkled outside. 3 months into their new life together, Charlotte was more content than she'd ever been. Marcus had settled into being a part-time nurse, working just 2 shifts a week to maintain his license and sense of independence. The rest of his time was devoted to taking care of Sophia during her recovery and managing their household. Sophia was thriving. Her energy was back. She could run and play without getting winded. She'd started kindergarten at a private school near the penthouse and was making friends. She called Charlotte Mama without the miss now, and Marcus Daddy, and they were simply a family. Charlotte had even started working from home more, taking meetings via video conference so she could have lunch with Marcus and Sophia every day. She'd never been happier, which was why the attack blindsided her. She was in a board meeting, one of the few she still attended in person, when Robert Bradford, a rival CEO who'd been trying to acquire Whitmore Technologies for years, made his move. "I think we need to address the elephant in the room," Bradford said, his voice dripping with false concern. "Charlotte's recent life changes. There are concerns about her judgment." Charlotte's spine stiffened. "What concerns, Robert?" "Well, it's just that you've become involved with your nurse," Bradford said, and several board members shifted uncomfortably. "A male nurse who happens to be black and comes from a very different socio-economic background, and you've essentially adopted his child, all within a matter of months." "So," Charlotte said coldly, "so there are questions about whether this relationship is genuine or if you're being taken advantage of. There's also the matter of your disability and whether it's affecting your decision-making capabilities." The room went silent. Charlotte felt rage building in her chest, hot and fierce. "My disability," she said slowly, "has nothing to do with my mental capacity, and my personal life is none of this board's business." "It becomes our business when it affects the company," Bradford countered. "There are rumors, Charlotte, about you being manipulated, about this man using his daughter's illness to gain access to your wealth, about you losing your edge because you're playing house instead of focusing on business." "Those are lies," Charlotte said, her voice like ice. "Marcus Jones is the most honorable man I've ever met. He fought me every step of the way when I wanted to help with Sophia's medical care. He insisted on paying me back, even though I told him it wasn't necessary. He works part-time when he could easily live off my income because his pride and independence matter to him. So don't you dare suggest he's using me. Then explain why you've missed 3 major acquisition opportunities in the past 2 months, Bradford pressed. Why you're working from home instead of being present at the office. Why your focus has clearly shifted away from this company. My focus has shifted to what actually matters, Charlotte shot back. But that doesn't mean I've stopped doing my job. Profits are up 12% since I took my personal life seriously. Employee satisfaction is at an all-time high because I implemented work-from-home policies that people have been asking for. We've streamlined operations and actually become more efficient. So please, Robert, tell me again how my relationship is hurting this company." Bradford leaned back in his chair, clearly preparing his final attack. "The truth is, Charlotte, some of us are concerned that you're no longer fit to lead this company. A woman in a wheelchair distracted by a new family making emotional rather than logical decisions. It's not the image we want for Whitmore Technologies." "Get out," Charlotte said quietly. "Excuse me. Get out." Charlotte's voice was deadly calm. "You're fired, Robert. You and anyone else on this board who questions my fitness to lead. I built this company from the ground up. I fought off my own father when he tried to take it from me. I'm not going to let you or anyone else use my disability or my personal life as weapons against me. You can't just fire board members. I can and I am. Check your contracts. I retain majority voting power. This meeting is adjourned." Charlotte wheeled herself toward the door, then stopped and turned back. "And Robert, the man you're so worried about, he's taught me more about leadership, loyalty, and love than anyone in this room ever did. He's made me a better CEO because he's made me a better person. If you can't see that, then you have no business being part of this company." She left the room to stunned silence. When Charlotte got home that evening, she was shaking with anger and adrenaline. Marcus took one look at her face and sent Sophia to play in her room. "What happened?" he asked, kneeling beside her wheelchair. Charlotte told him everything. By the time she finished, tears were streaming down her face. "They said you were using me, that Sophia was just a tool to get to my money. They questioned whether I'm mentally fit to run my own company because I'm with you." Marcus's jaw was tight. "Maybe they're right." Charlotte's head snapped up. "What?" "Maybe I am holding you back. Maybe you should be focusing on your career instead of coming home for lunch every day. Maybe," "Stop," Charlotte said fiercely. She grabbed his face with both hands. "Don't you dare let them get in your head. Marcus, you are not holding me back. You're the reason I can do my job better now. You give me balance. You give me a reason to build something that matters beyond just making money. But they're attacking you because of me, because of Sophia. If we weren't in your life, if you weren't in my life, I'd still be sitting alone in this apartment, working 18-hour days and wondering why success felt so empty." Charlotte interrupted. "You and Sophia didn't make me weak. You made me human again. And I'm not giving that up because some insecure men are threatened by a woman who has both power and happiness." Marcus pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. "I hate that I can't protect you from this, that I can't fight these battles for you." "You do protect me," Charlotte whispered against his chest. "You protect my heart. You protect my sanity. You remind me every day why I work so hard so I can come home to you and Sophia and have a life that means something." They held each other for a long time. Finally, Marcus pulled back and looked at her with determination in his eyes. "Marry me," he said. Charlotte blinked. "What?" "Marry me right now, as soon as possible." Marcus took her hands. "Let's show them all that this is real, that we're not going anywhere, that they can't use our relationship as a weapon because we're family, legally, officially, permanently family." "Marcus, you don't have to." "I want to," he interrupted. "I've been planning to ask you anyway. I've been saving up for a ring. But forget the ring, forget the fancy proposal. I just want to marry you, Charlotte Whitmore. I want to be your husband. I want Sophia to be our daughter officially. I want us to be unshakable." Charlotte was crying again, but these were happy tears. Yes, I'll marry you. Tomorrow, if possible." Marcus laughed and kissed her. "Tomorrow might be pushing it, but soon. Very soon." That night after Sophia was asleep, Charlotte made a decision. She'd been thinking about it for weeks and now felt like the right time. "I want to start a foundation," she told Marcus, "a fund specifically for children with heart conditions, especially kids from low-income families and communities of color. Sophia shouldn't have had to wait 6 months for basic care. No child should have to wait because their parents don't have money or the right insurance." Marcus stared at her. "You're serious?" "Completely serious. I want to call it the Hope Foundation. We'll fund surgeries, cover medical costs, provide support for families. We'll make sure every child has access to the same level of care Sophia got regardless of their parents' bank account." "Charlotte, that's incredible, but it's going to cost millions." "I have millions," Charlotte said simply, "more than I could ever spend. It's time I used it for something that actually matters, and I want you to help me run it. You know the medical field. You know what families need. We can do this together." Marcus pulled her close, his voice thick with emotion. "How did I get so lucky? How did I end up with someone who sees my daughter's struggle and wants to make sure no other child has to go through the same thing?" "We got lucky together," Charlotte whispered. "Now let's make sure other families get lucky too." Charlotte and Marcus got married 4 weeks later in a small ceremony in the garden of the penthouse building. Sophia was the flower girl wearing a white dress with purple flowers that matched her mama's gown. Mama Rose cried through the entire ceremony. Charlotte's assistant Maria was maid of honor, and Marcus's best friend from the hospital stood as his best man. Charlotte wore a custom-designed dress that worked perfectly with her wheelchair, flowing and elegant without being restrictive. Marcus wore a simple black suit, and when he saw Charlotte coming toward him, he started crying before she even reached him. "You're supposed to wait until the vows," Charlotte teased, but she was crying too. "I can't help it," Marcus whispered, taking her hands. "You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." The officiant kept the ceremony short and sweet. When it came time for the vows, Marcus went first. "Charlotte, when I met you, I was just trying to survive, working double shifts, worrying every day about how I'd take care of my daughter, feeling like I was barely keeping my head above water. You came into our lives, and you didn't just save Sophia. You saved me too. You taught me that asking for help isn't weakness. That love doesn't have to make sense on paper to be real. That family is what you build, not just what you're born into. I promise to love you, support you, and push your wheelchair for the rest of our lives, even though you're perfectly capable of doing it yourself. I promise to be your partner in every way that matters. I promise to make you laugh when the board meetings get too serious and to hold you when the world gets too heavy. You are my home, Charlotte, today and always." Charlotte was openly sobbing by the time he finished. She took a shaky breath and started her own vows. Marcus, I spent 3 years after my accident thinking I'd never be seen as anything but broken, that I'd never be enough for anyone, that love was something that happened to other people, not to women like me. Then you saw me. Not the wheelchair, not the money, not the CEO title, just me. You and Sophia gave me a reason to wake up in the morning that had nothing to do with proving myself to people who didn't matter. You gave me a family when I thought I'd lost that chance forever. I promise to love you and Sophia with everything I have. I promise to never take for granted what we've built together. I promise to fight for us always. You called me strong, but Marcus, you're the strongest person I know. And I'm so grateful I get to be strong alongside you for the rest of our lives. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Marcus kissed Charlotte like they were the only two people in the world. Sophia cheered and threw flower petals everywhere, and everyone laughed and cried at the same time. At the reception afterward, a small gathering of close friends and family, Mama Rose pulled Charlotte aside. "Thank you," she said simply, "for loving my boy, for loving my grandbaby, for making them smile again. I didn't think Marcus would ever let himself be happy after Sophia's mother left, but you healed him." "He healed me too," Charlotte said honestly. "We healed each other." The next morning, Charlotte had to attend that rescheduled board meeting. She'd spent the past month restructuring the board, removing anyone who had supported Bradford's attack and bringing in fresh voices who actually believed in the company's mission. She wheeled into the conference room with Marcus beside her. The remaining board members looked surprised to see him. "Good morning, everyone," Charlotte said crisply. "I'd like to introduce you to my husband, Marcus Whitmore-Jones. He'll be attending all future board meetings as the director of the Hope Foundation, our new philanthropic arm focused on pediatric cardiac care." She'd hyphenated their names. Marcus had tried to argue that he should just take her name, but Charlotte had insisted. "We're partners, equals. Our names should reflect that." Charlotte spent the next hour presenting her vision for the foundation, backed by detailed financial projections and implementation plans. The board was clearly impressed. Afterward, Robert Bradford, who'd been fired but was legally required to attend one final meeting, approached them in the hallway. "Congratulations on your marriage," he said stiffly. "I may have been hasty in my concerns." "You were wrong," Charlotte said flatly. "And you let prejudice and assumptions cloud your judgment. That's why you're no longer part of this company." Bradford left without another word. Marcus squeezed Charlotte's hand. "You didn't have to bring me to the meeting. I know I don't really know anything about business." "You know about compassion, dedication, and integrity," Charlotte said. "That's more valuable than any MBA. And I wanted everyone to see us together, to know that we're a team." Life settled into a new rhythm after that. Marcus discovered he loved working with the foundation, using his medical knowledge to evaluate grant applications and connect with families in need. Charlotte found balance between running her company and actually having a life outside work. Sophia thrived with two parents who adored her. 6 months after the wedding, Charlotte and Marcus sat in a lawyer's office signing the papers to officially adopt Sophia. Charlotte was already her stepmother, but they wanted to make it legal in every sense. "This means Mama Charlotte is really my mama forever?" Sophia asked seriously. "Forever and ever," Charlotte confirmed, signing her name with a flourish. "Good," Sophia said matter-of-factly, "because I already told everyone at school you're my mama, so it would be weird if you weren't." They all laughed, and Charlotte felt a completeness she'd never known was possible. A year later, they sat in Dr. Cole's office for Sophia's annual checkup. She was now a healthy, energetic 7-year-old who showed no signs of her heart defect ever existing. "Perfect," Dr. Cole said, studying the scans. "Her heart is functioning beautifully. Whatever you two are doing, keep doing it." "Just loving her," Marcus set his arm around Charlotte's shoulders. "That's all." In the car on the way home, Sophia asked, "Are we going to have more kids because I want a little brother or sister?" Charlotte and Marcus exchanged glances. "We've been thinking about that," Charlotte said carefully. They'd been talking about adoption, knowing that Charlotte's spinal injury made pregnancy impossible. "How would you feel about adopting a baby?" "Really?" Sophia's face lit up. "Can we adopt a baby with a broken heart like I had, so they can be fixed too?" Marcus laughed, his eyes suspiciously bright. "You know what, sweetheart, I think that's a perfect idea." 2 years after that, they brought home twins, a boy and a girl, both 2 years old, both with congenital heart defects that the Hope Foundation had funded repairs for. Their birth mother had been a single parent who couldn't afford their care, and had made the heartbreaking decision to give them up so they could survive. Their names are Emma and Elijah, Charlotte told Sophia, who is now 9 and absolutely thrilled to be a big sister. And they're going to need you to teach them everything. Sophia took her job very seriously. She read to them every night, showed them her favorite toys, and appointed herself their official protector at all times. The apartment that had once been too quiet and cold was now full of laughter, toys, and the beautiful chaos of family life. Charlotte learned to navigate 3 kids, a full-time career, and a foundation that was changing lives. Marcus discovered he was an incredible father to 3 very different children. They were exhausted most days, overwhelmed sometimes, but never, ever lonely. 5 years after they met in that coffee shop, Charlotte gave a speech at a fundraiser for the Hope Foundation. Marcus and all 3 kids sat in the front row. "People ask me all the time what my greatest accomplishment is," Charlotte said from the stage, looking directly at her family. "They expect me to talk about building a billion-dollar company, about revolutionizing the tech industry, about overcoming disability to succeed in business. But my greatest accomplishment is sitting right there in the front row. My husband who teaches me every day what real strength looks like. My daughter Sophia, who saw a woman in a wheelchair and decided she was a princess. My twins Emma and Elijah, who remind me every day that the fight is always worth it. They are my legacy. And everything else, the money, the company, even this foundation, is just a tool to make sure more families get to experience what we have: love, hope, home." The crowd gave her a standing ovation, but Charlotte only had eyes for Marcus, who was crying openly and mouthing, "I love you," across the room. That night, after all 3 kids were finally asleep, Marcus and Charlotte sat together on their balcony, looking out at the city lights. "Do you ever regret it?" Marcus asked quietly. "Giving up the quiet life you had before us?" Charlotte laughed. "Are you kidding? That wasn't life. That was just existing. This," she gestured toward the apartment where their children slept, "this is life. Messy, loud, beautiful, real life." "I never thought I'd have this," Marcus admitted. "A wife I'm crazy about, 3 healthy kids, a job I love that makes a difference. I was just trying to keep my head above water and survive each day. Then you rolled into that coffee shop and changed everything." "We changed everything together," Charlotte corrected. She took his hand and squeezed it. "You taught me that strength isn't about doing everything alone, that asking for help is brave, that love doesn't have to make sense to everyone else, as long as it makes sense to us. And you taught me that I'm worth more than what I can provide," Marcus said, "that my value isn't tied to a paycheck, that letting someone love me isn't weakness." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, then Charlotte smiled. "Sophia asked me today when we're going to have more kids." Marcus groaned. "We have 3 already." "Isn't that enough chaos? She wants us to adopt again. Specifically, she wants a baby brother for Elijah since Emma has her." "That girl is going to run the world someday," Marcus said with a laugh. "Fine, but only 1 more. And only after the twins are out of diapers." "Deal," Charlotte said, then paused. "Actually, I was looking at the adoption files yesterday, and there's a sibling pair." Charlotte, Marcus warned, but he was smiling. "Just think about it. A 10-year-old boy and his 8-year-old sister. They've been in foster care for 2 years because nobody wants older kids. They both have medical issues that our foundation could—" Marcus kissed her to stop her talking. When he pulled back, he was grinning. "Fine. Set up a meeting. But if we do this, we're buying a bigger place. 5 kids do not fit in this penthouse, no matter how big it is." "We could look at houses," Charlotte suggested, "with a yard. And maybe a dog. Sophia's been asking for a dog." "A house, 5 kids and a dog," Marcus said, shaking his head in wonder. "How did we get here?" "1 cup of coffee at a time," Charlotte said softly. "1 moment of bravery. 1 decision to let each other in." Marcus pulled her close, and they stayed like that until the city lights started to dim with approaching dawn. Behind them in the apartment, their children slept peacefully, 3 miracles they'd built a family around. Charlotte Whitmore Jones had built a tech empire from nothing. She'd survived a car crash that should have ended her. She'd fought off her own father and a hostile board to keep her company. But none of those battles had been as important as the one she'd won that day in the coffee shop, the battle to let someone see her as human, not as a disability or a dollar sign. And Marcus Jones, who'd spent years just trying to survive and protect his daughter, had learned that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let yourself be loved. Together, they'd built something neither of them could have created alone. Not just a family, but a legacy of hope for others who were fighting their own battles. 3 years later, with 5 kids, a dog named Hope, and a house in the suburbs with a wheelchair-accessible garden, they sat together on their porch watching their children play. "Still think I'm worth the trouble?" Marcus asked, echoing their first conversation. Charlotte smiled and took his hand. "Every single day, for the rest of our lives." And she meant it. Every word. And as the evening breeze drifted across the porch, Charlotte realized this was the life she once thought she'd lost forever. Marcus tightened his hand around hers, both of them, watching their children running in the yard, loud and full of joy. For the first time in years, the future felt not frightening, but beautifully undeniably theirs.
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.